All right. Episode 31, take two. No. Episode 31. All right, let's go. JJ, how's it going? Thanks for being here today again, man.
Hanging in there.
Yeah?
Yeah,
It's been a few minutes since I've seen ya.
yeah.
Feel
Well,
like we're not seeing each other quite as much lately.
yeah. I've probably been the busiest I've been in a long time
Yeah?
with work.
That's good though.
Just finding that balance, and
Right? That's positive.
yeah, you got to stay busy in recovery.
Mm-hmm. So today I want to touch on a few things, but one of the things I really want to touch on is so I feel like sometimes with the comments and some of the things that get said, that it can kind of sound like we're complaining or that we're like maybe not grateful to have a program or there's
Oh yeah,
clinics. But what I don't, what I want people to understand is it's not complaining. We're trying to show you what lies ahead if you continue
yeah,
into a path of addiction and if you use. It's not going to be you just go to a clinic and now the clinic's going to take care of you and treat you like, oh, you're in recovery, you need everything, and they're just going to hand it over and baby you. It's not going to be like that.
no. That it's gonna be your It's gonna be like a huge part of your life. It's gonna be you can't go on vacations. You can't.
I mean, I am very grateful for the clinic that there's a place where we can get a clean dose and can get you out of the streets and just get you on a good path. I mean, you're 9 months now removed.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, like losing track. It's been so long. I think actually it's like 10 months now. I can't.
But that's good.
Yeah,
And it's because of a program that you were able to get there,
yeah,
even through the struggles and the stress of that and what you went through.
yep,
Because you had to go an hour and a half away for a while,
yep. Every day.
and that was through choices that were made and things that happened at the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all part of what we're talking about here with the rules and the things you have to follow.
Yep.
And I want to try to demonstrate that. And, it's maybe not always the best way or the best way to phrase it, but still just trying to show people that if you continue on a path, that's what's going to happen. That's where you're going to be.
Yeah, and it's the whole point is to prevent anybody from ever doing drugs in the first place, or just leading down the wrong path.
Right.
And that goes with like if there's any kids watching, like when your parents do tell you to not do something, or it just goes a long way, because regret is a horrible feeling.
Hmm. Well, and that's the thing. When you enter the program, you're still facing a lot of the same issues. You still are taking a medication. You still have a use disorder that you're dealing with.
Yeah,
So I think, I just think people feel like the clinic is gonna be this like great help that's just
a
gonna
silver
solve it
bullet.
all. Right,
Yep.
right. And it's not. And when we talk about like how the time is, how it's slowed down there. They're not worried about your time. They're not worried about your issues. You talk about a little in counseling, but when you come to dose, if you have to do a UA, if you have to do things, you only get a couple chances to do those things. And if
Yep.
you refuse or have issues with those things, you will have to face consequences for those actions, which could eventually have you not be in a program.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing things the right way, just if you have anxiety issues, certain struggles mentally, you can still end up on that path of not being in the program.
Yeah. And what we really should talk about too is the physical consequences of the long term, being
Hmm.
on MAT.
Right. That is another big thing is how you feel.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to say too is I checked a couple years ago, the last time I've actually checked, because another thing is you either have to carry insurance or you have to pay out of pocket.
Yep.
And last time I checked, it's $5,500 a year to pay out of pocket to go to a program, or at
Yeah.
least the one here in Eau Claire.
It's 20, or what was it, $20 or $25 a day?
I think when I looked last, it was like 18 something.
Okay.
Comes out to like 5,500 ish a year, which that's $5,500 a year is not just a little bit of money.
No, but
That's for your treatment program.
there's I mean there's both ways of looking at it is what was the person doing prior to that, because like, a drug habit is not cheap, you know, like
Hmm.
looking back, how much do you think you spent when you
Right.
were at the peak of your addiction?
Hmm. And that's where I lost where I was going with that one. But we'll go with the next thing. What I really want to bring up though is like it is frustrating because this last year, 2023, was one of the worst years for overdoses. It was the worst
It
year
was,
in
yeah,
history for overdoses, and I feel like we know
epidemic levels.
other influencers that are trying to bring light to what goes on and what people go through. We've been trying to bring light to
Yeah.
what goes on and what people go through, and it feels frustrating to know that so many younger kids and so many people are still struggling with substance, even with all these different routes to get help now. Social media, the influencers trying to speak against it. It's just still so prevalent in everyone's lives.
I think since since the 2020 and the lockdowns and all of that, I think mental health has become it's I don't really know anybody right now that's not suffering from some form of mental health, whether it's addiction or not.
Right, for sure.
I see it everywhere.
I just like how can we reach out to people better though and really get people to understand. Like even when I was talking to Sam's kid Xavier was here
Yep.
talking to him, the way that when I brought up vaping, he was just like, "Yeah, everybody vapes," in school. And it's just like so common. Like people are just they're not thinking of the future at all.
No, and that's what I've noticed too with this younger generation is it's almost as if the even the whole word consequences, the whole thought of the long term, if I do this, this is what's going to happen, is not even like sketched in their mind.
Hmm.
And I don't want to say that it has a lot to do with the social media and them having an entire generation growing up with a phone,
Right.
constantly on their phone, it's getting that quick, you
Well,
know,
well,
like,
where did we switch from kids thinking that there's no consequences for anything? It was somewhere between like the late 90s and like 2016, I feel like,
yeah.
where there was like some transition where now people just feel like there's not consequences for actions.
Well, I think it has to do with, and I've heard Mike Tyson say it just perfect, is with these cell phones and everything, and people are getting too comfortable with what they say,
Right.
you know, because it is like it's just
But with that too, people should have all the information at their fingertips to
yep.
understand and realize what they're doing and even just look up things and look at the negative consequences of these actions and the choices that you're making.
And that is a really hard thing to say because, like, if you look far enough back, they the Holocaust, they used to have picnics when somebody would be beheaded.
Right.
Like it's just I don't know if it's society today, but it's definitely what's so sad is still with hip hop and influence and everything. It's still predominantly you're not cool unless you're on drugs today or you're doing something violent.
So that was another thing that I don't mean to keep going back to a different episode here, but with Xavier too, he brought up a poster that he bought and it was like dumping out a rainbow, but if you got the unedited version, it was dumping out pills. It was an album cover thing.
Really, what?
And it took me back to thinking, that's not just now. Remember, like the early Eminem CDs had a
Yeah,
pill on it, like a broken pill on the
it was a
cover.
broken Vicodin. I remember
Right.
that. Yeah,
You know, and that's been pushed to the kids now for 20, 30 years in the hip hop and music culture with pills like that.
yeah,
And more though since I'd say like 2010, 2012 and on.
yeah. Well, yeah, that whole I think 2010s is when it really you started seeing them actually on drugs, like, and it was so like that was cool, really, because art, like we've talked about before. I know that was the last thing you wanted to be known for if you were a rapper back
Right.
then.
Mhm.
It was a sign of a weakness.
Yep.
Now it's like you have to be that to even rap. I don't know.
Yeah, back then you wanted to, you it in the music they talked about being the one that
Yes, yeah.
supplied the fiends, and now
Just great
it's
influence all
I
around.
am the fiend. I am the addict. I'm
Yo,
an addict and I can't hide it. Like you hear this in the songs.
yeah,
Like one of Future's songs, he says that I'm an addict and I can't even hide it. You know, that's a verse in a song.
yo. I've actually heard a lot of bad stuff about him. I've heard that he's not an addict, and
Maybe he just promotes it. I don't haven't
I,
dug into him deep enough. I just know some of the things I've heard in his music and
yeah, it's
different.
all about drugs. Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, right, songs named like Perky's,
Molly
all kinds of
Percocet, yeah.
stuff is in the title. Yeah.
And just looking at how I've matured over the past few years, I used to like that song. Now when I hear it, it's like, God, I hope no, and that there's millions and millions of kids that are
Right. So,
influenced by that. It's really messed up.
and along with all this, so I've been reading Matthew Perry's book,
Yeah,
Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. It's a good book. If you haven't read it, you should really pick it up, get a chance. I
definitely going to.
highly recommend it. He really struggled more than I think most people could ever even have imagined. It's actually really good. I'm almost done with it. I don't think I've read a book quite this fast in a long time. I mean, I typically read books like about people quicker because I'm into it. I like curious to understand and
Yeah.
learn more about what they went through. But there's actually a part in here that I want to read on here, and it really brings to light not only what the clinics go through, but what we go through, and it kind of puts it full circle.
Okay.
It's like it's 2 pages. I'm just gonna read it. It shouldn't take me more than just a couple minutes here. All right. So it's deeper in the book. It's called Pockets. I was sitting in my room at the New York Treatment Center and I was jonesing for opiates. The detox hadn't worked and my body was screaming for drugs. I told the doctor and I told the counselor, but I really didn't need to tell them anything. I was stirring and shaking, clearly withdrawing. They did nothing. I was lost. I was sick. It was time to take matters into my own hands. I picked up the phone and made some arrangements. The rule was if you left the premises, you had to do a pee test immediately upon returning. So I walked outside, met the vehicle, handed over some money, retrieved some pills, and they were off. Back in the treatment center, I headed directly to the bathroom, did the pee test, then swallowed 3 pills. Genius, right? Not so fast. Just as the pills kicked in and my body was beginning to feel like warm honey again, it was almost as if the moment I stopped shaking, there was a knock on my door. Oh, fuck, fuck, fuck. The counselor and one of my nurses walked in. Somebody called to say there had been a drug deal outside the facility, the counselor announced. I need to check your coat. Fuck. Really? I said wide-eyed with fake wonder. Well, you won't find any pills on me. I'm good. I said already knowing they'd find pills on me, and I wasn't good, not even close. Sure enough, there were pills in my pocket. I put them there. They took the pills away and told me that they'd deal with it in the morning. This meant I was still high for about 4 more hours, but there would be hell to pay the next day. At 10 a.m. the following morning, all the powers that be in this awful place had gathered in a circle. Their message was simple: you're out. You're kicking me out, I said. I can't believe my fucking ears. This is a drug rehab, right? Why are all of you so fucking surprised that someone did drugs here? I told the two of you that I was sick and you did nothing. What the fuck was I supposed to do? And please, for the love of God, wipe those shocked looks off your faces. I'm a drug addict. I did some drugs. That's what we do. A few phone calls were made and I was ushered off to some unknown rehab in Pennsylvania. But there I was shuffled to another state like a ball in a pinball machine. The one upside, this place allowed smoking. Moments after arriving, I had my first cigarette in 9 months, which felt awfully good. Little problem though. I was addicted to 6 milligrams of Ativan at the time, and this new place didn't give out Ativan. Something maybe the New York place could have checked on, but didn't. My own experiences and years of conversations with other addicts has led me to believe that most of these places are pieces of shit anyway. They're hell-bent on taking advantage of sick, needy people and cashing paychecks. The whole system is corrupt and completely fucked up. Take it from me, I'm an expert. I've poured millions of dollars into this system. Did the money help me or hurt me? There's no way I could run out of money doing drugs or alcohol. Does that make it harder? I'm glad we'll never know. That's the end.
And that is, I've often thought about that many times. Is that whole pity party that every addict gets? You know, like, oh, I'm the only one suffering and everything like that. And you know, all these millionaires or all these celebrities get to. It's a complete double-edged sword because look at that. They just kept shifting them to rehab after rehab after rehab.
But just like here, they didn't check if they had Ativan there.
Oh yeah,
He
and he
needed
could have died from
Ativan, but
that.
he could have smoked there. So they're like, oh, there's smoking there. He'll go there, but
Yep.
no Ativan. And I think the really big thing is trust. I think we have to get into a conversation about trust in the circle of trust at a clinic. I've said this before. One of the long term nurses there, before she left in Eau Claire, said she couldn't believe the people that have lied to her here in Eau Claire and that she can't believe how trust was broken so much. That is where the real problem lies, just like in here. They act surprised when you use.
They
Why are your counselors and people stuck in such a stigma that they're surprised when the addicts end up using if they're not getting what they need? This is where it really starts to come full circle for me.
I cannot agree more because that's the absolute feeling of I don't wish withdrawal of any drug, whatever your drug is of choice, on anybody.
Hmm.
There's not a, and I've been through a lot in my life, but there's nothing that compares to, especially when you're in the the grips of like you're gonna be absolutely sick.
Hmm.
Is there's no way to possibly explain it, like how terrible it is, like,
Right.
and the whole thing too when he was talking about Ativan, that's a benzodiazepine. It's over a 60 to 70% chance if you have been on that even up to 2 weeks, just only 2 weeks, you could have a seizure and die. Grand mal seizures, they're called.
Hmm. And it, and that right there too, though. I mean, clinics will send you back and forth without knowing what one clinic can do, what another
Yeah,
clinic can
there's
do.
no consistency.
I mean, when I was trying to guest dose, when I went to a new clinic that I hadn't been to, it wasn't fully new. It would have been a couple years since I had been there, but they were trying to give me takeouts, and I don't have any takeouts. And I literally was really had to get on them and was getting a little upset because they were really trying to give them to me. And I was like, listen, I can't take this out of here. You can't. That's not mine. I don't
Was
have
this out of
takeout.
state?
It was in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay.
And for some reason, they had it to where their paperwork said that I should have stuff to take home, but my clinic, no, I should not have anything. I shouldn't be coming back with anything.
Yeah,
And in the end, I didn't take anything because I knew I shouldn't have anything.
and you're 6 hours away. That's a good 6 hour drive.
Right. Like I ended up just saying, no, I'm not taking anything out of this facility because I don't have takeout.
Yeah. It just,
It's even just stuff like that, that those mix up cause a lot of extra issues and stress
you
for
would have been in
people.
trouble. It had yeah, you did what they wanted you to. Yeah, you'd have been in trouble in Eau Claire.
Right. I'm sure somehow it would have gotten sorted out, but
They would have been like, well, why did you? I don't know. I could see that going really bad
right.
at
Me
first till
too.
they sort it out.
Right. It's just that's where the whole trust thing. I feel like with me, they know that I take my recovery serious.
Yeah.
It's not something that only in the very beginning when I was really upset and just in like the worst place you could imagine with it that I acted out and put my recovery in danger. But after the first like 8 months of that, I stopped doing that. And now I take it very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. I've never once, and I was telling you that before. I've never seen you over medicated. I've never anything.
Well, and I've even recently had a couple of the nurses say that they agree with the perspective I'm taking on tapering and they think that more people should start tapering over the long term and stop trying to just sit at a dose and then try to taper just a few weeks at a time and then
Yeah.
leave and have all these extra issues.
Or definitely, I don't recommend doing what I did. Yeah.
No. No, but you are on two things.
Yeah.
So to taper or not to only taper halfway and then leave when you're probably 3 months ahead of when you should leave it was risky, but you made it through.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, but you did make
Yeah,
it through.
and that's and everybody's different. I'm, you know,
Hmm.
it was
It
definitely.
depends how strong you feel too. You obviously felt strong enough to get through it. Not everybody's gonna feel that way.
Yeah, and I still actually have repercussions from doing that.
Well, that's one thing that I was just thinking
My
about.
body's still in.
Right before I had post acute withdrawal, I was leveled at 80 milligrams, and I was really comfortable at methadone, like at when I finally was balanced. But without even using more, just going through post acute withdrawal and what it did to my nerves and what it did to my body, I had to get to 110 back in the program to be balanced again without
Yeah.
even having used more since my previous addiction, just from the post acute withdrawal. That's how much damage it did.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's a big difference. Having to go an extra almost 30 milligrams to, or no, yeah, 80, 90, yeah, 30 milligrams to get to that same exact comfort level to taper.
Yeah.
Now I've been tapering again for a little while, but it just shows the damage.
Yeah. It's I have actually seen a doctor explain it before that addiction is a disease of the central nervous system.
Well, that's one thing that Matthew Perry really argued. His big thing was my first drink is a choice, but
Yeah.
after that, it's not my choice anymore. So
Yeah.
I have to fight that first one and not let myself ever go to that first one because I lose the control after my disease takes over once that drug enters my body.
Yeah. There's not a better way to explain it.
And even with some of his stuff, the way people would argue against him and say, no, it's not like that. It's still your choice. You can still stop. But it's clear that a lot of people still just don't understand how addiction works inside of our bodies and our brains.
Yeah. And it's just terrible. It's frustrating.
Well, and we're going into, not everybody, but in our area, we're going into a tight spot because we just had some healthcare and
No.
treatment facilities
Tons of
close.
For the entire eastern Wisconsin.
Right, we had a couple in the city here close, which one was a pretty big treatment facility. They did alcohol, didn't they, and detox.
They were the only.
Were they inpatient?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
they were the
inpatient.
only. There's two types of detox facilities. There's some that won't take like alcohol and benzo withdrawal because you can die from those.
Right.
Luckily, the one in Chippewa Falls, Ellie Phillips, Libertas, was an actual detox hospital. They would take and people, and I had been there years back, and I had met people from Michigan, from Minnesota, Milwaukee, because it was the only actual detox
Right.
facility that could handle,
Impatient.
well, like they could handle alcohol withdrawal, they could handle benzo withdrawal, they could handle
And I know that they were full a lot because when one of my friends
always.
tried to get in there, he actually had to wait a little bit.
Yep.
He couldn't get in right away for alcohol.
And then they started doing it where, like, if you had been there like so many times, like they would, you couldn't come back.
Oh,
And it
really?
just, in fact, if you look on their, the Google reviews, there was somebody, because it was a insurance thing, of course. They were shoved out the door, and that person committed suicide. And whoever friend that was wrote a long thing on the Google review.
See, stuff like that is really frustrating with people. So you know why they were pushed out? Because it was because they kept coming. You said.
No, it said because it was an insurance
Oh,
thing.
insurance.
And
That's what you
that
said.
is, I think
That's
everybody's kind of
messed
dealt
up.
with that.
When you get kicked out of a program over that.
When I was in there years back, I remember there was people, their insurance would only pay for like 14 days of their of the 20, like that's it. And then some was like 7 days.
If someone is in there and
Insurance is a mess.
they're showing that they're doing good, you should not be able to remove them out. I mean,
That's life
even
or
if they
death.
have to bill it and you have to pay it back over time, whatever, you should not be able to just pull somebody out if they're doing good, especially. I can understand if someone's not taking it seriously and they're
Yeah,
just
or
really
bringing
messing
drugs
it up,
in
right, and destroying
constantly.
it, but to just take someone that's doing good out, that's not helping anybody. That's not helping the community. But again, it goes back to this though. Users are going to use when they're struggling and when
Yeah.
they don't see another way.
Yep.
And that's where the real tricky part for the clinics and for us as people in recovery, for everybody, we have to be honest and we have to be able to trust that the programs are doing the right thing for us too, and they're not just looking at us like we're money.
Yeah.
Others have mentioned comments, people have mentioned they feel like a number there. They don't feel like a person.
Yeah. Well,
But
they give you a number.
we can go argue. Does your drug dealer make you feel like a person? They make you sit around and wait too. We can go back and forth with stuff like
Right.
that a lot.
But here's the thing too: is with these street drugs and the way people are dying left and
Right.
right off pills that look real, but they're not. It's anything that keeps somebody above 6 feet. Because
Yeah.
I've lost enough people in my life, especially from addiction alone,
Yeah.
that anything that keeps you alive today is better than nothing.
Right. So in here, he talked about when he was in the hospital, they were trying to cut off his opioids, and he was getting them from one of the crooked nurses.
Oh, okay.
And when he got to the next place, they drug tested him, and he had fentanyl in his system because she was getting him pressed pills.
Oh,
So even from a person that worked in the hospital, he was thinking he was getting real prescribed pills, and some of them were pressed.
wow.
So he had failed for fentanyl. So that just shows you that it doesn't matter the situation you're in. The chance of a press pill being in just a small handful of pills is very real.
It's 9 times out of
We're not
9
talking
times out
that
of
you're
10 it will
getting
be.
the press pills from the scrungy guy on the corner. You're getting them from your nurses, corrupt nurses. You're getting them from just people who actually have a prescription. There's still pressed pills in there somehow.
Yeah, I don't even know what to. That just shows right there
Well,
where we're at in society right now.
Well, I know it's the reason why 2023 was a high year for overdoses, and it's the reason why things need to change. It's the reason why younger kids especially, need to stop wanting to experiment with hard things.
Yeah,
Don't take the
there's
pill. Don't take the opioid. Don't take
nothing good
meth.
that comes out of it. Yeah, nothing. Every drug has
Take
that fentanyl in it now.
If you have something prescribed from a doctor, that's one thing, but don't be buying things on the street because you really don't know and you don't want to be part of the new 2024 statistics breaking more records. It's only going to get worse as long as people continue to use.
Yo, that is true, man. It's getting worse by the day.
It is. And we have to figure out a way to get people to understand and stop it because your road is a road of pain. It's a road of being under rules and guidelines for years. It's not fun being under the thumb of others. It's not like if you would have told me in my early 20s that my next 5 years of choices were going to lead me to years and years of stomach pain and vomiting and having to go to a program regularly, daily,
Mm,
to take a medication, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But
yeah. And the after, like, I after like 9, 10 months, I'm just learning how to like properly sleep again every night. This is no joke. Like I don't.
you need people that have been through it that
Yeah.
can really explain and discuss what you're going to go through because we're all going to be on that same path. It can and it will happen to you if you keep using.
Guaranteed.
You're
And
not
there's
going to
some drugs
escape it.
that the first time they do it, yeah, it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one time with it.
Right. Have you ever heard of Laodicean Christian or Laodicean Christian? I never know how to pronounce it right. It means basically you half believe.
I've heard of a lapse. Yeah, like it's like a lukewarm Christian.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What did you hear of it? What is it called?
like lukewarm.
Right, but did you heard of it?
A
It was a
lasp
oh,
Catholic. I've heard that term. I've heard.
I heard it as Laodicean, but
I've never
Laodiceans
heard
were
that.
half believers. Like they only believed, they were lukewarm believers, like you said. But it was something I was thinking about because I heard someone talking about how when they get to heaven, why, and you're talking to God, why should He let you in if your deeds were to make you feel good and not to serve Him?
Yeah.
You know,
I've actually. There was a pastor that I seen on those YouTube short clips, and this guy was a pastor for 50, 60 years. Like this guy was in his late 70s, early 80s, and I don't know what medical condition he had, but he was clinically dead. And he said he went to heaven, and God said to him, I am not allowing you to come in here. And he was so surprised because he was like, what? I served for you. I was a pastor for, 40, 50, 60 years. And he said, well, you didn't do it for, you did that for you.
right?
And
You were serving for your own good and not for the true meaning of serving for God.
and I think the best way to explain it is what kind of and this goes for everybody. Like if you're doing good and you're trying to help people behind closed doors, and not take any credit for it, that is to me a true
But
good person.
we live in the culture now though where everybody wants to videotape
Yeah.
making sandwiches, making food, and then going to hand it out to the homeless or hand it out to the needy people.
A lot of
Everything's
times
got to
it's
be
after they
on.
get in trouble too.
Well, and it's all got to be videotaped. It can't be just to go do it. Like, we are in such a weird time where everything is videotaped. Even that kind of stuff is and all the likes and comments about how great those people are
Yeah.
too. But that's all like self fulfillment is what it is.
It's
You're serving to feel good
narcissism.
for you,
Yeah.
not for the right reason. That's why I just wanted to bring it up because it's something that I had not heard that term before, but it's really interesting to think about how many people would likely fall under that sort of category.
And
And
they don't
my
even
understanding
realize
of
it.
religion is God doesn't want your worship if you're lukewarm. You either worship fully or you don't.
Yeah. Well, not only that too is what's not good is when people have had one bad experience and it's like forever. They're like, well, look at all the wars because of religion and this, that, and the other thing, and that's a I hate to hear that because
I think those people are misled though.
very, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I've met a lot of people, you know, and it's just when it comes to Christianity right now, it seems like that's like the only religion it seems to be like you're not allowed to talk about anymore.
Right. Well, I've been, my mind's been opened up to it a little bit more
Yes,
ever
dude, you've come
since.
a very long way.
Well, ever since they've seen that George Jenko talking about the fasting and prayer thing.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's something that is interesting that you don't hear about that. Like, everybody who's willing wants to pray, but who's making actual sacrifices for these prayers to come true? You know, the fasting is meant to say, I'm making a sacrifice, I'm sacrificing food for my prayers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not just pray and now I want to get what I want.
Well, they have Lent,
Right.
and that's where you give up something for 40 days, but that can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like giving up anything, like, you know, minor, major, but yeah. I that's why I have a lot of respect for Muslims or the Nation of Islam, all of it. And that's another thing is during Ramadan from sun up to sundown, they for a whole month they don't even drink water when the sun is
Right.
up. You know, that's dedication,
That
man.
that's sacrificing. That's
And they pray 5 times a day.
how many religions do you know about? Like different ones. Have you studied
Uh,
any of them or?
yeah, yes and no. I mean, Hinduism is actually like the oldest religion, I believe. Buddhist and just really, you know, I was born and raised strict Lutheran, so
See, I wasn't raised strict anything.
yeah, you know, and I'm really, like I said, I one of the proudest moments of my life was, you know, when I was baptized and confirmed from the same church.
Right.
And I remember every Wednesday for 3 years after school, mind you, when all my friends would go out to play every Wednesday for 3 years, I had to go to Bible study for 3 hours after school. But it's a big tradition in my family, and
I always remember the groups that would go to
yeah,
Bible study. There was always a few every Wednesday. Yeah. No,
I
we
actually
weren't.
have my whole like picture book of that really special day.
Nice.
You know,
That's awesome. See, and that's where like with me and Brooke, you know, when we have a kid, it'll be interesting with the religion and stuff because she was raised really religious.
okay,
And she's still, you know, I'll go to church with her on Sundays when we're, you know, at her parents' and stuff whenever we go visit. But other than that, she doesn't go since she moved here. She hasn't found a church here yet.
yeah,
So that's where I just was thinking about the lukewarm. And a lot of times people say they really believe and stuff, but what are you doing and how much do you really believe, you know, or what are you sacrificing or giving to prove that you're always with
yeah.
God and you always really, you know, proven that you believe that.
Well,
And that's part of why I haven't put full effort into it is because I haven't opened myself up in a way that I could do that yet. But I'm getting to a place where I think I will be
yeah.
able to.
Well, when you started sending me Bible verses, I was like, wow.
I mean, it's because it's
You have
interesting
a biblical name to live up to.
to understand and just to try to make sense of what they believe back then. You know, some of the different stuff that I've sent you is just shows like the way that people were willing to sacrifice for what they believe. And I don't think we're in a place where people are like that. Now it's gimme, 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 more, take, take, take.
This is a good
But I
stuff.
don't want to sacrifice anything.
And these mega pastors, these mega church, and they literally that's all they talk about is give me money, and God will bless you. That's the most disgusting thing ever. And there's a lot of them. I remember you remember those you remember the paid programs they'd be on at
Yeah.
night. That's all those were. And there's a lot of them by name. And the one guy looks evil as hell.
Yeah.
He's been around a long time. Yeah, it's disgusting. I know one of them has not one but two private jets because the one it's agreed, and I honestly that's a that's one of the seven deadly sins is greed,
Right.
and I think
And we're really in a place of it.
it's yeah I think the whole capitalism thing is kind of what more
I mean,
everything is so expensive right now. It's just
I've just seen it so up close and personal with certain people, like in my family. I'm not gonna say any like who
Right.
and stuff, but when you start to really see greed,
For what it is.
yeah, and it's just so in your face, and it's really kind of it's an ugly thing to be that way, to not be willing to, to want to take and have things come in your way, and if someone says, hey, could you sacrifice this or this, and it's not anything big. Nope, I can't, nope, I will not, I won't. And it's really interesting, and it's sad to see people are like that.
It's very sad because you see it all the time.
We should be willing to sacrifice for the things we really want. We go to school, we sacrifice time. You go to work, you sacrifice time. You do things, you have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, and like right now, I mean, it just seems like everybody's living paycheck to paycheck, and but there's
But
always
it's because
money.
of greed. Everybody
Yeah.
buys thing on credit. The average American has 7 credit cards. The average American since 2020 is 72% worse off financially.
Yeah.
I mean, where are we? Your phone, you can get phones with no interest, no money down. You can just go buy a new phone, but now you got to pay $32 a month.
Everything is
Your phone bill was
a bill.
$80. Now you tacked another 30 on. Then there's tax.
The hidden fees.
Now your phone bill's 116 by the time you get done with it. And it was supposed to be like 80. That's where all the extra money is. You can get everything right away. You don't have to save or work up for anything really. And houses are out of reach for most people.
Yeah.
And that's sad too.
And a lot of people fall for it because they're desperate times. Is there's nothing's free.
Oh,
There's
for sure
always
not.
something attached to it.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting times. It'll be interesting really to see how the next 10 years go.
Yeah, we're really living in some times
To
that
see what we're talking about as time goes forward.
yeah.
I hope we're talking about overdoses and stuff dropping to a minimum. I hope people really start to understand what you're going to go through. And especially think about what people have gone through with just oxys and, heroin. Now you're going to throw fentanyl into the mix, something so much stronger. So imagine what the long term of that's going to be.
I don't know. And these vapes. We'll see the long-term effects of those.
That's actually something I think we should probably touch on too, is the vape culture is an interesting one in a way because people are wearing them as necklaces,
Yeah.
things like that. And you almost have to think of it though, because like the bad boys would roll their cigarettes up in their sleeves.
Yeah. I never
be
did. I had seen that in movies and stuff like that, but
Oh, you've seen a couple people in, restaurants and stuff do it over the years. I did anyways.
the greasers, that's really funny.
And then there was
I know the Vietnam look was always like on the helmet. They'd have their Marlboros.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, cigarettes weren't really hated on the way they are until probably just 15, 20 years ago.
That is funny. Like I remember. Yeah, sure you remember this too. Like as when we were kids, like in the 90s and early 2000s even, when you go to a restaurant, they'd be like, smoking or non-smoking section,
Oh, when I was 15,
You can't even smoke in a bar now.
15, there was a truck stop in the little small town 8 miles away from my small town I grew up in, and us 15-year-olds would jump in with a 16-year-old, and we would all ride over to the truck stop next to a couple miles over, and we'd have 15 of us maybe, all between 15 and 19, sitting in there at the tables, smoking cigarettes, taking up like a whole section, or we'd order just like a soda or whatever. A couple people might get food, but that's what we would do, and the cops would never come in, and nobody would get busted or anything. It was just a bunch of kids in the truck stop smoking cigarettes. That went on for 2 years or so.
That's funny.
But then they stopped allowing smoking in a couple years after that, and
Yeah.
but I will always probably remember those times being that young in the truck stops, all of us thinking that we're so grown up,
Yeah.
sitting in there puffing on our cigarettes, chatting away with all the truckers and old people around you, and you
When you're
really
young.
think that you're special, you feel like you're an adult now, like.
Yeah. And
But
when
you're
you're
not.
young, you can't wait to grow up, and then when you grow up, you realize how good we had it.
Those are the things I wish those are the things that the younger kids need to realize are what puts your long-term health at risk.
Yeah.
You know, if you could, there's a lot of things to do other than go smoke a cigarette or hit a vape or do a drug. We live in a world where you got video games, phones. There's so much at people's fingertips. Virtual reality.
Yeah.
You can be anything, do anything, but so you really don't need drugs to fill that void.
No.
I just feel like there was a Ah.
huge change
yeah.
in the world that
But it feels like it was right after our generation, though. That's what
I
gets
honestly,
me.
I believe we were the last generation that played outside. When I was growing up, I don't remember ever being inside.
See, I remember a lot of outside stuff too. Some video games and stuff, but
Yeah.
not like it is now.
Oh.
But yeah, no, but with the vapes and stuff though, like I am in a substance abuse court classes,
Yep.
and we have people that still wear them on their neck and stuff. So it's like just doesn't matter. It's part of culture right now. It's part of almost making a fashion statement.
Yeah, I guess. I
But
don't.
I
I
think
just not. I didn't get into it.
I think people are gonna find out though. I mentioned to Brooke a few times that in 20 years, the people who quit vaping early are gonna be thankful, and the ones who don't are gonna really wish that they did. I feel like it's gonna bring some major health stuff that we haven't even seen yet down the road.
I agree.
With the metals, I just really feel like the metal stuff is gonna come back on people.
Yeah. The battery in the thing, a lot of it.
I'm not going to get into a whole thing because I don't want to stir up a whole thing over it, but some of the results I've seen from independent labs that have done tests on some of it don't match what is on the box and what is on the box labs. That's what always bothered
Yeah.
me, is when things aren't matching up, they're marketing you a product that isn't exactly what they're selling you. It's a little bit different. So there's more risks than what people think. But people don't want to believe it.
No.
They want to say that you saw it on some stupid Facebook or I heard it from a friend, bro, source.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's usually what it is.
People, we do a little more research than just top surface layer stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about today?
No. That pretty much covered it.
That's cool, man.
Definitely gonna read that book.
Yeah, man. But it's really clear though that there's some major changes ahead that need to happen in
Yeah,
order for people to
it's-
get to a better place.
It's I don't know. It's got to get better. I mean, the whole stigma has to change. Like,
Right.
the sooner the better.
Well, right, and we can't be breaking overdose records. There's plenty of ways that people should be able to learn and overcome addiction and not end up down that path even. Just realize that those pills are not real anymore. We're in a very weird place now. If you take a pill, you're at a very high risk of something going wrong, especially people who don't have a tolerance.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because, and even like him, in a hospital with a nurse getting it for him, still fentanyl in the system.
Yeah.
This is a wealthy person here. And that's why I wanted to bring that to light, is because it's someone who's wealthy going through a higher tier of treatment. Inpatient type treatments, a much more expensive tier, and still the same type of feelings, the same type of thing.
Yeah, it's sad. It really is, And he passed away, what is it, like October?
Yeah.
And
he really had a hard time. He really went through it. He
Oh,
really
yeah.
did. That
His
book right
entire
there will
career.
make you think big time. He really went through it. I appreciate you being here and always being
Always,
open to
man.
these conversations. Our conversations I look forward to because we
Yeah.
always get into stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You never know.
Just
So-
been so worn down with work and everything and family,
Mhm.
and you name it.
That happens. You just
Yeah.
gotta find balance. Balance, man.
That's the key. I'm trying.
But yeah, thanks for being here and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Stay safe and make good choices for yourself and those around you.
Do your research.